All right, welcome everybody. This is date September 6th, Saturday, 2025, episode number one. And if I can remain consistent, this is the beginning of the last lesson documentation of the entire art. Um, if you realize this will not be in the same, I think the last lesson YouTube channel. This is more of, I think I listed it as something like Unknown Wing Chun channel. I'll be uploading the videos on there, hopefully on a consistent basis. But if you notice, I probably won't. I'll just document it as this is episode one, yada yada yada, and then also I'm not going to put any titles in there as far as this is Wing Chun and so forth. I don't really want people to find it or discover it other than the main groups that we have here. So for today, episode one, we are going to talk about Ichikimi-ma. Now you may be saying you've talked about Ichikimi many times, so this is the basic stance of Wing Chun. And if you look at the past videos, pretty much I go over details of all the stuff that you need for learning how to do the stance correctly. So this is a little bit different, a little bit more advanced on how to look at this. And I want you to look at I have it listed in my head as far as three different ways to view the stance. Okay, so first way, as I stated before, Yichikimura, as a priority, we say there's three things that are very important in Wing Chun. First, number one rule is what? Stance. Okay. Second rule is stance. And third and final rule is stance. So 1, 2, and 3. If you forget 1, go to 2. If you forget 2, go to 3. But notice I made it in that segment first to emphasize the importance of the stance. Now you might be saying, oh, you've said that many times, the stance is important, everything depends on the stance. Yes, there's a difference first, and this is the first thing I want you to look at. There's a difference between hearing it, hearing that the stance is important is one thing. Understanding that the stance is important is another thing. And finally, valuing that the stance is actually really important is another thing. So you could find yourselves at different stages. Like obviously in day one, I say the stance is important. And in the beginning, the value of that takes time to develop, right? The more you train, the more hopefully you understand what comes about that. So hearing it is good. It's a start, but it's not where you want to be. Understanding it, like, okay, I know this is important. I practice it, and you have some resemblance as far as, okay, I need to make this better. That's another thing, okay? But when you actually fully value it, it's almost like to the likings of someone who, in a religious belief or an occult mentality, that no matter what, right? I'll be like, no matter what, this first and foremost is the most important thing. Like if you're chi-sawing with somebody and you find yourself like feeling hand heavy, that means you know that the stance is important, but yet you're not at that point where you really truly value it. And I think the other day I was telling Robert, I was like, you find yourself starting from the source and then eventually you get to the hands and the hands kind of dominate. It's like you know it, you mentally know it, you know to value it, but you're not at that point where it's like religion to you, where it's like, frick, I don't care if I get hit, I don't care if I miss his block, I don't care what happens, but I will not give up the center of gravity at every and all costs. Okay, you got to get to that point, right? Like you could say there's three stages to get to that point as far as like hearing it, understanding it, and where you're really valuing it. Like there's like no temptation outside of it. It's like when you work out and you're like, okay, I'm gonna work out, lose weight, and diet. Yeah, you find yourself you're doing pretty good, but every so often you have a little cheat. Like you say, okay, I've worked out twice today. I'm gonna have a little diet here, or have some ice cream or something like that. It's good, but it's not great. When you're devout to that concept, to that core, to that origin of belief, then there's no freaking way you're like, oh, you're gonna offer me this ice cream or whatever. Don't care, don't want it. So same thing, you got to get to that point where it is like a religion to you not to give up your center of gravity. If you find yourself where the center of gravity, you're willing to spare it every so often, you're not there yet. So you got to train to get to that point. Okay. So hopefully you understand it. It's not something like you can say like to yourself where it's like, the center of gravity is important. No, you got to basically get to the point where you train to trust your center of gravity and how valuable it is to you. So that's a part of the training discipline. Okay. So first and foremost, first step with YGKYM, hear it, learn it, right? You hear it and then you start to understand it. And then finally to the point where you value it, where it's like at no point will you give it up. Until you get to that point, excuse me, your Wing Chun can be good. It's just not going to be that great. Okay? Second thing, the next stage that everyone gets to is like when we open up YGKYM, it's like stand still, right? Find your center. Let's cross the motion. That's 2. We tuck in. That's 3. We open up 4, and then finish 5, right? And if you look at it, it's like segmented parts, right? Like you go like, here's part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete the motion. And I liken this to give you an example of like when it comes to like maybe in the sense of like studying language. Okay, if you can imagine, let's say something simple like in language setting, like he is, let's say a person, he is the subject, right? He, and what does he do? He likes some form of action to eat, right? Burgers, right? So in the beginning, when you're learning a language, you learn like individual pieces. You learn the vocabulary. Okay, he, okay, burger, likes, and to eat. Okay, and the problem is when it comes to forming sentences, speaking, or listening to it, we do it like technique-wise, it's like broken down, right? Like he, and then you have burger. He likes and eats, and then he eat burger, and you try to like piece it together. And then when you do it, it's almost like when you look at it. I want you to give 2 examples. Here I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks good. Okay, I'm opening up my center, and you're like segmenting it, but it's like he eat burger. But if you just take the whole context of what you're doing, and don't be so, I know you have to break it down in the beginning, like you do 1 motion, then 2 motions, 3 motions. That is a given, right? You have to do it in that sense. But the quicker route to actually understand it is to almost like get the beat, to get the full spectrum of what you're trying to do, to get the full rhythm of how you're opening up the stance. Like segmented wise, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you start listening to like, I would say the breath or the rhythm or the beat of opening it, like even from this motion, like you're here and you're kind of like, see, I'm just trying to find my center of gravity. I open up, I close here and then here. Okay, nothing wrong with that. It's here. But look at my next motion when I'm here. It's almost like you're like tapping like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, finding your center of gravity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice it's like there's like a smoothness to how you're doing it. So as opposed to segmenting it, which it is necessary in the beginning to understand, I have to do this, I have to do this and this. The faster development is actually finding the beat, the rhythm, the breath of how you're doing the motions. So for example, when you say, he likes to eat burger, if you keep practicing, he likes to eat burgers, he likes to eat burgers, he likes to eat burgers. And not just he likes to eat burgers, he likes to eat burgers, right? It's like almost like you see, like even in speech and even the way you talk, it's not just like he like to eat burger. He likes to eat burgers. You see how that you can, even the way I'm saying it has like a rhythm to it. Well, when you open up your stance, everything from here is like from even the beginning. From here, when you do motions, you have like a rhythm to it to actually catch your motion. The as far as from opening to sinking to closing and so forth, right? If you can think in that terms, I think in this instance when it deals with stance, that in itself, as far as practicing other things too, will make things a lot smoother for you to learn and speed up the process. In the beginning, we have like step 1 and 2, and it's like technique. And when you do that technique, right? When you do that technique, then it's okay, but it's a slower process as far as you actually hearing it. You just imagine like listening to a song, and when you hear the song, you hear the whole song. You may not pick up everything, but something about it, as far as the rhythm, the beat, the breath of the song itself, you catch on to it, right? You may not understand everything about it, but something about the rhythm makes it smooth for you to follow. Think of the same thing with all your motions. When I'm doing the stance, I'm not only just trying to find my center of gravity. See, here you're trying to wiggle to find your center of gravity. Here I'm just like peaceful. Everything from I'm doing is I'm trying to find like there's the breath of my motion, right? There's the rhythm of how I'm moving, right? Not me going like 1, 2, 3 like this. Even from here, I have one smooth motion, right? 1, 2, 3. So if that makes sense, hopefully that makes sense. That if you can do it and see and understand what I just said regarding that, your learning process, your training process should go a lot smoother and faster. Okay? Third thing, right? So we talked about value system. We talked about like the rhythm, the beat, the breath of how to catch your motions and stuff like that. Third thing is a rule, right, regarding stance. And that is, if one moves, everything moves. One for all. Okay, the one for all rule. The one for all rule is simply, a lot of times in the very beginning when you do the stance, people think you do one thing and you hold it. You do another thing and you hold it. And it's never the point. So if you imagine like the body as like 100, right? 100 pieces. If one piece moves in the body, then all 100 then the remaining 99 pieces move as well. There's never a point where one moves only and everything else stays stationary. One for all. So the most common mistakes that you see is, like, if I have my center of gravity here, standing in place, so the first motion is we cross, right? And then I'm here. So the chest caves in, belly gets big, yada, 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 and neck tensions up. And then once you achieve this, it's almost like this is step 1, but step 2, 3, and 4, you have motion from here to here to here. But step 1 is like isolated, and you're just holding it in place. That is never the case. This rule you have to remember and ingrain in your mind. One for all. That means if one moves, everything else moves. So even if I do this and then get to this state here, this state from here is not static. When I move, when I bend my knees and tuck in, there's motion here, there's motion here, there's motion here and all. So if you can remember that simple rule, motion, one for all. If one thing moves, everything else moves. There's no such thing as it being static, okay? So that's rule number 3. The fourth and final thing that I want you to look at with your YGKYM is a little bit of concept as far as, I guess a lot of times in the beginning when I was searching for a way to say, well, how do you know you're in your center of gravity? How do you know everything's okay? And it's almost like you say to yourself, well, it just feels good. It feels like you're doing nothing at all, right? But in reality, while that is true to a specific case, you need something as a person who trains to be a check for you, right? You need something to check to say in validation that I am on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. How do I know other than I feel nothing or it feels good, okay? So from here, right, think of it this way. When we do our first motion, right, this first concept is basically you have the ball and then the curve, right? So in other words, what's this? When the chest caves in, the belly gets big, the center of gravity is like defined. Here's like, okay, here's where my center of gravity is here, okay? And notice I'm not trying to hold the center of gravity. Like I said, if something moves, everything moves, one for all, right? But the point is, when I do this, this is my center of gravity. So if you imagine this is a ball. And then from this ball motion, we have the stretch and the tuck. So if you can picture this is a ball, your center of gravity, this is a spine, right? That's covering this. So at this point, this coverage of the ball is actually making the spine straight, right? From here to here is actually this curvature here. Looks like you're curving and wrapping around the ball, but here's your center of gravity, and actually this is actually maintaining it around it. Okay, so what happens when you're doing your motion? What is the thing that you need to retain is when you have the ball and the spine in this shape, right, for coverage here. Then you need 4, right? Feel for 4 is next stage. So you have to first reference where your center of gravity is, and then once you reference your center of gravity and you have the spine in place, imagine like it's wrapped around like a tent, okay? Like here it is. Here's wrapped around the tent. But what do you do with the tent? You just don't open up the tent and whatever's inside is inside. You need basically four points, right? The 4 edges. The 4 edges that you have once you define the center of gravity and this hook here is what? First elbow, second elbow, third knee, fourth knee. So basically these 4 things, so if you can visualize this, here's you inside, this is the tent cover, and this 4 areas here basically like enforce or support where your center of gravity is, or reference where your center of gravity is. It keeps it intact. Okay, so that means from here, run here, right here, center of gravity, right? The spine stretch here, covers. Then when we run it, next shape is 2 elbows, 2 knees, sink, 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 sink. And these are responsible, right? These are responsible for creating the shape of the circle, okay? But we're still not done, because at this stage here, once you open up, right? Once you open up, you have the feet and the hands. The feet and the hands' purpose is basically to seal the ball, right? To seal the final ends of the structure. So what you're feeling is, when you do this, is the hollow palm in itself is almost like, how do I say this? Like if you're at the point where you're about to grab, right? And like if you try to catch a ball, like, you know, there has to be like an openness to it, to the thing, to your hands, in order for you to have that, to catch something, right? Same thing applies for your feet. When you're doing it correctly, when the feet have the hollowness, you feel more of the surface area, right? Spread out with the feet. When you have this, basically, when the hands are hollow, notice that when you stem the flow from the expansion from the source, and it goes out, if you do it incorrectly, you basically end at the wrist, right? You have to end basically at the palm, where you have the hollow palm. So that sensation of the palm is needed. So the whole explanation of it is you are in the center, right? Here's your center of gravity. The spine functions right on top. To enforce it, right, the tent, you have the basically 4 areas. You have to feel for 4, the 2 elbows, 2 knees, right? And then to finalize and seal the whole thing, like you spike it in, is basically from here, the hollow palms and the hollow feet, almost like stake it into the ground. And then once you complete that, that's when you actually finish your full formation of the YGKYM-001. Why is this so important? Because that finalization of that motion basically lets you create the full flow. And once you can create the flow from beginning to end, this flow you need to maintain within yourself. So if I do a motion like this, like it looks like, yeah, this is free to move, but this is jammed, you just killed your own flow. Even if I go like this, see how I'm adjusting myself so the flow constantly runs throughout the entire body, arms, legs, and so forth. But if you end up losing that flow in one motion, stopping that flow, then you're killing that feel, right? This creation that you have in YGKYM-001 is not just, you look at it as stationary, but think of it as your foundation as there. Here, I've created the perfect foundation to create the flow within me. All right, I know that's a lot of stuff, and hopefully you see YGKYM-001 in a different way. This is, I guess you could say maybe a little more advanced way to look at it, right? So we have the value system as one for YGKYM-001. That's extremely important. Then what else did I say? I'm trying to, now I got a mind blank. Oh, one for all, right? One for all. Then we have basically, what is that? We have the one for all, and then we have basically how you implement it from the center of gravity, and the tent, sealing, and completing it, so you create that full flow. Okay. All right. I think I covered everything, right? So those 4 things alone are the most important thing. Oh, I got a mind fart on the second one. How come I got a mind fart on that? Anyway, maybe I'm getting bitten here. Anyway, hopefully that helps you understand how to look at the YGKYM-001 stance. And from that point on, damn, mosquitoes are in here. And that point on, hopefully this is episode 1. Hopefully you enjoy it. And that's pretty much it.